Hi. Welcome back to my kitchen. I've decided this is the best lighting. Yeah. So for now we're in my kitchen. I'm also wearing a Be Kind shirt, which totally you cannot tell was sitting in a drawer for several months waiting for me to make a video about saving summer. This video is not really about saving summer. Let me hold on. Let me back up like 5 seconds. Hi, my name's Liv. I'm an independent author. My current work in progress is a sorority romance novel with an estimated release date of fall 2026. All right, so now that we got that out of the way, this video is actually I put a poll on my personal Instagram because I don't really use my author one. I'm very bad at using my author social media. Very good at using my personal social media. Very bad at using any professional social media. I put out a poll on which I had 2 topics I was thinking about filming for this week, and I put out a poll between those 2 topics, and the one that was chosen was, obviously, as you can see by the title, the costs and hidden costs of self-publishing. Now, I know a million YouTube authors have made videos like this. I've watched many videos like this, preparing for becoming a self-published author. And there's just, I don't know, it just hits different coming from like a successful author versus, you know, someone like me who hasn't quite had her big break yet. I just feel like it'll hit different from like the perspective of somebody who has not made even close to a return on investment for her first novel. So we are going to talk about costs today. Now I've divided this into 2 categories. I've got the mandatory, or things that I consider to be mandatory costs, and I've got the optional costs. And most of the hidden charges are within the optional category, but I'm going to talk about both, and I'm going to mention, I'm just going to get into everything that I spent so far. I'm not going to tell you like everything I've spent so far on my personal author career, but I am going to break down costs of certain things. The number one, and I'm pretty sure the most expensive cost of being a self-published author, is getting your own editor. I will not skip professional editing. I will not skip any stage of professional editing. I had it in my head like years ago that like I'm an English major, I can just proofread my own stuff for grammar, and I'll just get the editor for like the not copy edits, for the developmental and line edits, which I'll talk about that in a second. No, we don't skimp on editing in this house. We do not. We simply don't. That is something I will never advocate for skipping. I don't care what your rush to get your book out is. If you publish something that has not been professionally edited, I guarantee, whether it's years from now or like a few months from now, one day you will be embarrassed of your work, and you will go through great lengths to scrub any existence of it from the internet and the universe and whatever library your dad donated copies to. And so just take my word for, just please do not skip editing. I have read work from people that believed that they were above needing an editor. Please get one, please. Okay, so editing is probably going to be the most expensive thing, and it is also it will also add up because you need to get each individual book edited. So it's not like it's just one-time editing fee like some of the other fees that I'm going to go over are kind of one-time things. No, this is something that you will have to pay for every single time you want to get a book published if you want it done well. I've heard some people use different editors for different types of editing. I've just always used the same editor for all types of editing, so I can't speak to that experience. I like my editor. I like the work we do together, so I'm not on the market for a new one. And also because I have been working with her since around the time she got started, she does give me a slight discount on her services. So there is that benefit that I get, but it's still very expensive. It's still like not something that, it's still something that you kind of have to save up for, especially if you're like me on a teacher's salary. Yeah, so there are 3 different types of editing that I pay for. I pay for developmental edits, which is basically where she looks at my story as a whole and offers just general suggestions and leaves comments throughout with like questions she has, things that like sometimes like with Violet's novel, I would forget that because it was originally alternating perspectives between 3 characters, I would forget that like it's like the other characters in what is now their companion novel talked about this event for about 50 pages. Whereas in Violet's novel, it was mentioned once like 100 pages ago, and now it's kind of expected that she remembers that. And so like things like that, if that makes sense to you. And then there are line edits, which is what Violet's novel is currently undergoing, which is where she looks at like specific dialogue, like just kind of what it sounds like line by line, and adds suggestions line by line. And she'll use like the track changes feature to show me like exactly what she's changed. So I still have the free will to reject any changes that she makes, which I typically don't. Sometimes I do if I'm like really attached to the way a character says something. But typically, you know, I'm like, editor knows best. And then there's copy edits, which are just grammar and structure and consistency and things like that. So those are the types that I pay for, and I told you them in order of least to most expensive. So I am going to go to her website while I'm editing this, and I'm going to pop up what she would typically charge without my special discount, what she would typically charge per word for each type of editing. And it looks like, oh yeah, like that many cents per word, but it adds up. It really adds up. And especially because Violet's novel is significantly longer than Saving Summer was. So the cost between getting Saving Summer edited versus getting Violet's novel edited is significantly different. Now when I previously had her edit something for me like years ago, we went through multiple rounds of developmental edits, and I think it was like 2 rounds of developmental edits, 2 rounds of line edits, and then I skipped copy edits because I thought that I could proofread my own work. Yeah. But with Saving Summer and now with Violet's novel, we've only had to do one of each kind. We've only had to do one of each kind. But when she would do a second round of a certain type of edits, it would be, I want to say 50% of the original cost, because it was the second round. I will double check that on her website. All right. So yeah, editing is the most expensive thing, and it is the least negotiable thing, in my opinion. I've heard some people like will skip developmental edits if they feel like they got good enough beta reader feedback. I, first of all, just do not trust myself to skip any round of editing, and second of all, I don't have great luck with getting beta readers. Like the ones that have finished the beta reading process, fantastic, love them. But the amount of times I get ghosted, yeah, so I just, that's not something I am comfortable skipping. And I think even if I had like 100 beta readers, I probably still wouldn't skip developmental edits. Because beta reading is supposed to be free. I don't know if you've ever paid to be a beta reader for someone, but that's supposed to be free. And ARCs are supposed to be free. I didn't put ARCs as a cost just because I did it with an ebook, so that was free. But obviously if you want to send out physical ARC advanced reader copies to readers, that's going to cost you some money. But I also, I skipped ARCs, and then when I tried to do them, I did it with an ebook. I wouldn't recommend skipping ARCs. It's just that I didn't have a lot of interest, and you know, with Saving Summer being such dark subject material, I was not as gung-ho to like ask around for ARCs as I will be with Violet's novel. But I'll talk about that process when I eventually get to that stage with Violet's novel. Something else that you will need that goes along with the editing process that you don't really think about until you realize you don't have it is a working printer. Or a free trial of signature apps, because you have to sign contracts with your editor. And I had a working printer for a long time, and then suddenly I didn't, and I just never got it replaced, because most of the things I was printing were, the things that I print were like cross-stitch patterns, which I just started using my iPad for, stuff for work, which I just started using the work printer for, and my editor's contracts, which I started using free trials of signature apps for, and I'm running out of signature apps. So, like, 'cause they say they're free, but then they're like, if you want to sign more than 3 things, then you gotta pay. Yeah, because I'm not gonna use my work printer to print off editing contracts, just because I'm like, if I don't know who can see what I'm printing, but because it's like technically like a conflict of interest, like I'm printing something for like another job, I just don't touch that. So I've been using free signature apps, but would recommend getting a working printer. That it's on my list of things I need. But as long as your printer works and the ink holds out, that's kind of a one-time cost. So that's not something you have to like rebuy a new printer every time you need to sign a new contract with your editor, like you would need to get a new free trial subscription of a signature app. So the next mandatory cost is formatting. You're gonna have to format your novel in some way, whether you pay someone else to do it or you do it yourself. I splurged on my formatting. I got Adobe InDesign, which it's a subscription fee, but you're locked into a year. So like for the 2 months that I was using it to format Saving Summer, I still have to pay for it for, but like you still, like, I think you can like pay half of what you still owe to cancel the subscription early, but I don't know at what point that becomes more cost effective to do it that way. So I think I just paid for the whole year, even though I wasn't using it for most of those months. I just, canceled some of my streaming services to make up the cost. And I'm gonna have to do the same thing when I'm ready to format Violet's novel, because I am a control freak. I want to be in control of how I format my book, and InDesign is the best way to do that. I've heard of free programs, like I've heard of Vellum. I don't have a Mac currently, and then last I checked that was only available on Mac. And then there was some feature that Vellum didn't do when I was looking into it back when I had a Mac that InDesign does, that was like a critical thing for me. I think it was like, I want to say kerning, but I feel like that's not the right, I don't know. But so it was a worthy splurge for me. I will put the subscription fee somewhere up there. I'll talk about this later, but I'm still getting used to this editing software that I'm using, and I'll talk about that when we get to the optional section. But yeah, whether you pay somebody to format your book, whether you pay to format it yourself, I know you can do formatting in Microsoft Word. Not a big fan. The things that you can do with InDesign make it worth it for me. Cover art. You need to put something on your book's cover. You can't just not do that. So I am very fortunate that I have a lot of very artsy friends, and I like to buy art from my friends. So I don't ask for a discount. That's not something I do. I ask, what do you charge? And I've never been offered a discount. I've never asked for one. I just ask, what do you charge? And that's what I'm willing to pay. I will put what I paid for Saving Summer's cover art on the screen. I commissioned my friend Michelle to do that. I've worked with her before I've commissioned from her before. She's great. And I will likely use her services again. I haven't decided if I want to commission a different artsy friend for Violet's novel. I haven't even thought about cover art at this point. I mean, I thought about it, but I haven't like narrowed down what I want really, because I'm like, I've got time. But yeah, I'll put what I paid for the cover art there. I don't know if that's typical, because I haven't like looked for like professional cover art designers. so I can't really compare, but my advice is if you have an artsy friend that can give you what you want, that can like draw in the style that you want, then I would suggest commissioning them, just because I'm a big fan of paying my friends to do things for me versus some stranger. All right. Oh, and cover art is something that you obviously need to pay for individually for each book, as is formatting. You can't just format one book and you're done. One thing that I will say for formatting that was a one-time fee is I paid for a tutorial on how to use InDesign. There was a free one that I had found years ago, and I couldn't find it again, so I just ended up paying for a tutorial. It was $60, but that was a one-time fee. I have access to that tutorial whenever I need it for formatting books in the future. Wasn't thrilled about paying $60 for something that I had once found for free, but I feel like it was worth the cost because it does go pretty in depth. It didn't leave me with a lot of questions that I had to do outside research for. And I got, I'll link the one that I got in the description. But yeah, it was $60 and that was a one-time fee. All right, ISBNs. You technically don't need to buy an ISBN because wherever you publish through, if it's Amazon or, I actually don't know if Ingram Spark gives you an ISBN. I know Amazon does, and that's the most common publishing platform. So, so they give you an ISBN, but then you can only use that ISBN on their platform. And so I thought it was worth it to pay for my own ISBNs. I'll put the cost up there. You get 10. So I figure, I didn't do a hardcover for Saving Summer, but I figure hypothetically if I do a hardcover, a paperback, and an ebook for each project, then that's three ISBN numbers that I would need. So I get 10, that's 3 books, and plus 1 towards my next 10 ISBNs. So then, so I still have the ISBNs that I bought when I was buying them for Saving Summer, and I will be using them for Violet's novel. I don't need to buy new ISBNs yet, but that will eventually be a recurring cost because you will, if you're publishing more than 3 books, you will eventually run out of ISBNs. And another thing I paid for that is technically optional, but I wouldn't recommend skipping it, is I paid to copyright my book with the official Office of Copyright. The name of it is escaping me right now. But I paid to get that. I paid to get my book copyrighted, and I wouldn't recommend skipping that just because, especially with the rise of AI, like you want to make sure you own your work. As somebody who is quite literally looking at the Taylor Swift Eras Tour popcorn bucket that she's had sitting on her kitchen counter since she got home from the Eras Tour movie 2 years ago, strongly suggest owning your own work. So yeah, I wouldn't skip copyright. And the last thing I have under mandatory is your proof copies. You are going to need to order more than 1 proof copy. You are not the exception. Like, you would have to be extremely lucky to get everything perfectly right on your first proof copy. I have like 5 Saving Summer misprints away because I don't know what to do with them. But I have like the first one I got, the font was too small, so I had to make it bigger and then just reformat everything that way. The second one, I realized there was like a typo in it when I was proofreading, and that's the other thing, is like you can pay for your final proofread from your editor and then still go through and happen to find something because nobody's perfect. So just make sure you are also checking your work that way. And like, no shade, that was not supposed to be shady, that's just genuinely nobody is perfect. So yeah, just make sure, yeah, so you will, so I have that misprint. I have one where, like, when I first ordered from Ingram Spark, I uploaded the cover art, like I formatted the cover art wrong, so it was like slightly off, and it was noticeably off. It was more than just slightly off, it was noticeable. So I had to redo all of that. I was like agonizing trying to think, what did I do wrong? And then I realized it and I was like, oh, okay. So I fixed it. And that's the other thing, is if you are publishing through both Amazon and Ingram Spark like I did, you're gonna need a proof copy from each. If you're doing a hardcover and a paperback, you're gonna need proof copies of the hardcover and the paperback. And you are likely going to need multiple of each. So like my goal, if I do the hardcover for Violet's novel, is to get a hardcover proof copy, or it's to get the paperback proof copies and just knock out everything with the interior that possibly needs to be fixed with those, then get a hardcover proof copy and hope that the formatting transferred, but I will probably need to buy a second hardcover proof copy at some point. I'm hoping to not need 5. That's my goal, to not need 5, because I do not have room in my apartment for a bunch of misprints. I already don't know what to do with my Saving Summer misprints. So yeah, so now when you get the proof copies, you don't have to pay like the full what you're charging. You just have to pay the print cost and shipping, in my experience. So it's not like you're paying $14.99 for every single proof copy. You are paying you are paying the print cost and shipping. And with Ingram Spark, I did rush shipping because they said like it took so long for them to approve my account that I didn't even think I was going to be able to publish with them. So I had everything ready to go with Amazon, and then like a month before release date, they were like, we've approved your Ingram Spark account. And I was like, okay, like rushing to get all my stuff uploaded. And so that's the only reason I paid rush shipping there, is because I just didn't have time to play with that really. So yeah, obviously rush shipping is optional. All right. Speaking of optional, I'm going to tell you all the things that I paid for my writing career specifically that are optional. First is I registered Saving Summer with the Library of Congress. There is a fee for that. I'll put that there. And then there is a hidden fee that comes with doing that. So you think you've paid for your Library of Congress, you're good? No, because something that none of the videos I watched that explains how to register with the Library of Congress went over. I had to scrape the internet for tutorials to finally find an explanation for what I put in a certain box. And then it was like, oh yeah, you need an address. You need a physical mailing address. And I'm like, I know I'm not popular. Like, I know I'm not like Lemony Snicket popular. I know I'm not anywhere near popular enough to like have stalkers yet, but still, I'm not dumb enough to put my whole home address on the copyright page of my book. That's just simply not something I'm willing to do. So I paid for a PO box. And the one tutorial that I found that mentioned, oh yeah, you're gonna need a PO box if you do this, said it was like $10 a month. I don't know where that person lives. Well, actually I do. I looked it up and I'm like, even there, it's not $10 a month or $20 a month or whatever she said. But I'm like, in Wilmington, Delaware, which is where I got my PO box, because that's where my old apartment was. In Wilmington, Delaware, PO box is $50 a month. Now it's up to $60 a month, but it was $50 a month when I originally got it. So that is something you will have to keep in mind if you plan to do that. Also, if you plan to have a mailing list, you need a physical address on your mailer, on your emails, according to the, I want to say FCC. According to something. It's Friday of my first week of teaching. My brain is cooked. So if you are doing a mailing list, which I do not currently have, everybody says you need a mailing list. I don't currently have one. I plan to have one eventually. I just like, I know myself. I know how inconsistent I am with doing things, especially during school season when I have work on top of that. So I just didn't start a mailing list yet. It's on my list, but it's not something I've started yet. But then when I start that, I have my PO box locked and loaded to put that physical address there. So yeah, if you are not doing a mailing list, but you want to do Library of Congress, you are still going to need a PO box unless you are really comfortable with everybody in the world having access to your home address, which I am not. So that is one of the more hidden fees that I found. Another optional thing that I have is Scrivener. Now, Scrivener is a one-time purchase fee. I think actually when I switched from Mac back to PC, I might have had to pay for it a second time. And it was also gifted to me the first time for Christmas one year. But I personally, I love writing in Scrivener. I can't go back to Microsoft Word. But even if you use Microsoft Word, that's still a subscription fee, which I have Microsoft Word because I need it for other things. So I pay that subscription fee, and then I paid the 1 or 2 time fee. Well, I paid the 1-time fee for Scrivener. Somebody else paid it for me the first time. But I love Scrivener. Can't sing their praises enough. I have a whole video talking about Scrivener if you want to watch it, see a very early draft draft of Saving Summer as I'm going through my tutorial of how I use it. But yeah, love Scrivener. Definitely worth what I paid for it, or what my parents paid for it when they gifted it to me. But I swear, I think I did have to pay for it a second time when I switched to PC. But anyway, yeah, so if you aren't using Google Docs, which I don't trust the cloud, I don't like cloud-based word editing software just because, like, I don't trust the cloud. Like genuinely, I don't trust the cloud like that. Also, I find Google Docs lags if you're typing, like just from writing college papers and stuff. Google Docs lags when you get to a certain word count, in my experience. So yeah, not a fan of Google Docs. I do use Dropbox to store my stuff so I can like proofread on my phone. I have the free version of Dropbox. I did not pay for the upgraded version of Dropbox, but that is the most I will ever trust the cloud. And that also, Dropbox also stores those files locally on my computer, and I can access them offline. I know Google Docs has an offline mode too, but I've been using Dropbox since like 2012, when I was just like writing stuff for fun and wanted to read it on my phone in bed. I love Dropbox. I will not switch to Google Docs. But yeah, I use Microsoft Word with my editor, and I use it for other things. So I pay for the subscription to Microsoft Word, and I paid had the one-time fee for Scrivener paid. Fonts are another optional thing. I use all the fonts that I use, I download from websites that say free for commercial use, and I make absolutely sure that those specific fonts say free for commercial use. But if you want to buy a fancy font, then that is up to you. I'm pretty sure that would be a one-time fee to use it, per font. All right, another optional thing, or maybe not super optional, I don't know, it depends on how you look at it, is I paid for a branding logo, which is the little whale that you see in the corner of the end title. I don't know where the whale is. But yeah, I paid for that whale. I commissioned Michelle for that as well, the one who did my cover art. I also commissioned additional art from Michelle for Saving Summer. Like, I commissioned the fountain that goes, in the print copy, there's like a black and white drawing of a fountain on one of the first pages, just because I needed something there. I wasn't sure what to put there, and so I just commissioned the fountain from her. You might have to commission additional art related to your story, depending on if you need a map, if you are like me and you're not talented in that area and you need somebody to draw a map for you, if you want somebody to draw character sketches for you. One of my future projects features a main character who likes to draw. That is like her thing, is that she draws, and I'm always describing her sketches throughout the story. And so when I eventually get that project published, I would want to commission somebody to draw her sketches for her, so that the reader could kind of have them as kind of like a bonus feature. That's something that I've thought about. But those, so like, I guess you could say those are optional, but they're definitely not as mandatory as cover art. Where was I? I was talking about branding logos. That's where I got off on this tangent. Yes, so I got the branding logo just so I'd have something cute to put on the spine of my book and to use on my website, which I'll talk about in a second, and just to use for my personal branding. So I paid for that. That's typically a one-time fee. She sent me a transparent version, a version with a background, all kinds of stuff. So another thing I paid for that I would consider optional is I paid for a professional photo shoot, and I did that intentionally as a one-time fee because, like, aside from like my weight fluctuating and like different hair lengths, I've looked the same since high school. So like, I feel like I could pay for a professional photo shoot one time to have a professional picture of me on my About the Author page, and just not have to pay for that again until I maybe start getting older, and stop looking like I'm a teenager. Nobody comment about that. Nobody comment about that. I work at a high school. I get mistaken for a student frequently. So anyway, that was an investment. That was like a one-time fee for me. If your appearance changes frequently, you might want to commission photos of yourself more often, or you might just want to use a selfie. I once had the idea that I could put a selfie on my About the Author page, and that would be cool. not a fan of that for myself personally. Like, no shade if you want to do that. That's just, I was trying to have a more professional image, and I was like, the selfie of me in my Kimmy Schmidt shirt in the hallway of my community college at the time student center, not really selling the whole professional look. So I did commission the professional photos. Another thing that I paid for that is technically optional is my website. I pay for a domain. Originally when I had my website, I was just like at wix.com or whatever. But I decided it was a worthy investment to have my own URL, and I switched from Wix to Squarespace also. I decided it was a worthy investment to have my own URL. It wasn't that bad of a subscription fee. I'll put what I pay up there, because I paid to also have like an email domain through Squarespace. Obviously, because if you've seen my email, it's not Gmail. It's because I just feel like it gives me that more professional. I just feel more professional having that, and it's a worthy investment to me. But yeah, so I paid for my domain to my website, and I'm, as bad as I am at updating my professional social media and all of that, I feel like a website is a worthy thing to have, because like you have a place to direct people, you have like a hub for like all your stuff. I guess and like there's Linktree. I have the free version of Linktree. Not paying for that. I use the free trials of Bitly. Like, I only get a certain number of links per month, and I just keep those links and don't make new ones so that I don't run out. Yeah, I use the free version of Canva to make things like thumbnails for my videos. I used Canva to make my business cards. I did get a free trial of Canva Premium just to use the background removing feature when I was making thumbnails. Not sure if I'm gonna keep that or not, because I don't make thumbnails half the time anyway. I know some people format their covers in Canva. So if you think getting a subscription to Canva is worthwhile, then that's up to you. But yeah, I would at least suggest investing in a website and investing in your own domain, just because it's so much easier to go to olivialinderbooks.com and not olivialinderbooks.squarespace. Whatever. So yeah, the email is even more optional. Like, honestly, if you just want to get a free Gmail, it's probably fine. Looks more professional if you have your own domain, and right now that's something I can afford, so we have that. All right, now let's talk about something truly optional, which is what you are seeing here. So I am very bad at updating all my author social media. This is the thing I'm the best at, believe it or not. Like, as bad as I have been for the past year about updating my YouTube, this is the thing I'm the best at. So I think it is worthy to invest in equipment to make videos. Now, I currently have a camera that I got. It's a Canon G7X that I got for Christmas like 5 years ago. Works fine. I did, the things that I paid for is I paid for a different tripod because the one that it came with kind of broke. I paid for a bigger SD card because it came with 64 gigabytes, and I'm like, I feel like I need more storage than that. And I am going to eventually invest in a ring light. That is on my list, because that desk lamp and my kitchen table, not really doing it. And I don't really want to be kneeling on my kitchen floor for the rest of my life. So I do still have my pillow here, or not still, like I put it back in my room when I was done filming the other video, and I brought it back to do this one. So yeah, that's stuff that I feel is worthwhile for me, because I want my videos to look good. For a long time, I was just using the webcam on my Mac to make these videos, but when I switched to a PC, I felt like the webcam was worse quality, and I was like, I have a camera, why don't I just use that? Oh, and I also had to buy an adapter to get my computer to read my SD card, because they don't come with ports for that anymore. So that is another thing I had to buy. And then editing software. So yeah, that. So right now I'm using Magix, which is the poor man's Sony Vegas. Let me spin you a yarn, okay? I was very big into the Sims 2 movie making community on the watching side. I was never very successful at making my own, but on the watching side, I was very into the Sims 2 movie making community in the early 2010s. And everybody used Sony Vegas to edit. Some of the people I talked to used versions that were maybe not obtained so legally. And they maybe sent me links to try to get those versions myself that maybe I couldn't figure out and felt really stupid for not being able to figure out, so I just gave up. But for Christmas, when I was a freshman in high school, my parents bought me Sony Vegas. I forget the name of the version. It was like Sony Vegas HD 9 or 10. It was pink. I remember it was pink. and it was amazing. I learned how to do almost anything. I knew that software inside and out. It was great. I loved it. Even though my videos never really saw the light of day, loved making Sims videos with that. I learned how to do so many things. I learned how to green screen. I learned how to do transitions and video effects and how to move text around and all that stuff. Magix is not like Sony Vegas. It's similar, but it's not Sony Vegas, and I'm still figuring out how to use it. Why don't I use Sony Vegas anymore? Well, let me tell you something, okay? So that software was gifted to me in 2009. I registered it on my Windows XP Dell Inspiron 1520 laptop in 2009. I eventually got a new computer when I graduated high school in 2013. I could not find the disk for Sony Vegas, so I just, anytime I needed to edit something, used a flash drive, moved it over to my old computer, edited it on there. Because I just couldn't find the disk to reinstall Sony Vegas, and none of the links that people had sent to me to get it less legally were working for me. I couldn't figure them out. So then in 2015, like December of 2015, I found my disk for Sony Vegas. I was so happy. Put it in my new laptop, because yes, it still had a disk drive back then. Put it in my laptop put it in my new laptop. And it said, this registration code expired in October of 2015. You have to buy a new one. So I'm like, okay, whatever it is, I'll ask for it for Christmas, whatever. It's worth it to me to have Sony Vegas on my new computer. I will buy a new registration code. They stopped making registration codes for that product at some point, so I couldn't get a new registration code for it. So I have not been able to use my beloved Sony Vegas in years. I did get a free trial of the newest version at some point when I was making like my early Saving Summer promo videos, which is why you could see the watermark from Sony Vegas in some of them. I was like, well, maybe I'll see like how much it costs to upgrade it to the full version, like to just buy a license for this new version, even though it's not the same as my beloved Sony Vegas Movie Studio HD Pink from 2010. So I went to see how much it cost, and I had to confirm with my parents that that is not what they spent on a 13-year-old who dreamed of making Sims 2 movies, okay? Because that is not in my price range for editing software. When I had my Mac, I was using iMovie, which I got decent at, nowhere near as good as I was with Sony Vegas, but I was decent with iMovie. I was decent with Windows Movie Maker, which was what I used to edit my like vlog videos on my old computer. My old computer, the one that I got for high school graduation that I couldn't put Sony Vegas on. I would use Windows Movie Maker for that. Wasn't ideal, but it did what it needed to do. And I can't find a version of Windows Movie Maker for the current version of Windows. Like I simply can't find whatever the new Windows Movie Maker is. So this was a long-winded rant about editing software, but I ended up paying for Magix because it was supposed to be the poor man's Sony Vegas, and I don't love it. I will probably save up to invest in Sony Vegas at this point, because that's my beloved. So if anybody from Sony Vegas is watching this and would like to give me a registration code to make HD Movie Studio 9 or 10 or whatever the pink one was work on my current computer, I will love you forever. But yeah, so all of this to say, I pay for Magix because I couldn't find a free version of Windows Movie Maker or a current version of Windows Movie Maker that would work on my PC that I have right now. And obviously I don't have a MacBook right now, so I don't have iMovie. I might invest in a MacBook somewhere down the line. I might switch back to Mac somewhere down the line, but I grew up on PC, so like, who knows? But yeah, that's why I had to pay for editing software, because I couldn't find a good free one on that would work on Windows. So that's that on that. You obviously don't need a fancy editing software if you are not doing an AuthorTube channel or trying to. So that's why I put that under optional. But that's that on that. And that is that on that. That's all I had. That's all I had in my notes. So those are what I have invested in and will continue to invest in for the sake of my author brand and my books. Most of what I talked about is optional. I just like to tell you what is out there, like what you can do, what I recommend. But genuinely, the only two things you really need to pay for are the only three things you really need to pay for are editing, which is the most expensive thing, formatting, whether you do it yourself or have somebody else do it, and cover art. Those are like the three like absolutely non-negotiable things. Everything else is either strongly recommended or purely optional. So that has been this video. My brain is so fried. I'm also starving because I started filming this right after I got home from work and I haven't eaten dinner yet. So I'm gonna do that. And I know what my next video is going to be because it was the other option from that poll that my friends took on Instagram. So I will see you very soon with that video, and I hope you all are having a great day, and I will see you hopefully next week with a new video. All right, bye.